All right, we are back on the record. All jurors are present. All counsel defendant are present. All right, Mr. Owens, you want to call your next witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. The people now call Jane Doe 5.
All right, she's coming in through the side door here. Hello, ma'am. You can come on in and go up to the witness stand if you would. I'll ask you to raise your right hand and face the clerk over here.
You do solemnly state that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And if I could ask Deputy DA Owens, is the person at the witness stand Jane Doe number 5?
Yes, she is.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for
Honor.
being here. Would you mind scooting your chair forward? And I'm going to ask you to speak into the microphone.
Okay.
And maybe you might want to lower a little bit. Do you remember last time
Is that okay?
That's excellent. I remember last time you testified you had a soft voice, so I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up.
Okay.
And the juror all the way to the very end at the jury box needs to be able to hear your testimony, so make sure you keep your voice up, okay?
Okay.
Now there's also a few cameras in the courtroom. They've been ordered not to show your face, so you don't have to worry about that, all right?
Okay.
And if you ever need to take a break, just let me know.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Owens, direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Doe.
Good afternoon.
I want to talk to you about some incidents that occurred just a couple of months ago in February of this year. Are you aware of what I'm referring to?
Yes, I do.
Before we do that, I want to ask you a little bit about your who you are and what some of your regular routines are, okay?
Okay.
How old are you?
78.
Do you live in the North County area of San Diego?
Yes, I do.
What city?
Carlsbad.
Do you regularly go to a gymnasium in the city of Carlsbad?
Yes, I do.
Who do you go with when you go to a gym in Carlsbad?
I always go with my husband.
And without telling us his full name, his first name Robert.
Yes, he is.
How old is he?
80.
How often do you and your husband go to the gym?
We go 3 times a week, every other day. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Is that your regular routine?
That is our regular routine.
About what time of day do you usually go to the gym on those
We
3
normally-
days? Pardon me. That's my fault. I apologize.
We normally go around noon, 12:30.
Around 12 or 12:30 in the middle of the day?
Yes.
And normally, on those 3 days, how long do you typically stay at the gym?
Well, we normally work out for a couple of hours and then we try to use the spa. We always do that. It's our routine. We use the spa after our workout. So we stay at the gym maybe three hours and a half, something like that.
So if you typically stay a total of 3 to 3.5 hours and you get there usually around 12 or 12:30, is it accurate to say that you usually leave sometime around 3:30 to perhaps even 4:30?
Yeah, 4:30 I would say, to be sure.
Now, when you say we usually use the spa, who are you referring to?
Well, it's my husband who also goes there and swim and use the steam room and the sauna and the jacuzzi.
What gym is it that you go to with your husband in Carlsbad?
It's the Crunch gym,
Is that Crunch Fitness?
Crunch Fitness.
What streets is that located off of, if you know?
I'm not really know. It's by El Camino Real.
Is
It's just 1 block down.
Is El Camino Real the major street that you turn off of in order to go into the complex where the Crunch Fitness is?
That is correct. That's what we do.
Now, when you and your husband have been going to Crunch Fitness, how long have you actually been a member there?
Since we moved from New York 12 years ago, we sign up in this, that was named something else, that was Pure Fitness. Crunch took over a few years ago. But
Is it fair to say that you're creatures of habit? You stick with the same
that's
gym?
exactly true. We've been doing this for almost 40 years.
And you have a regular routine of when you're there?
Yes, we do.
Now, on February 26th of this year, did the police come to speak to you about some incidents that had occurred while you and your husband were at the gym?
Could you come again, please?
Yes, I'll repeat the question. On February 26th of this year, did the police speak to you about some incidents that had happened while you and your husband were at the gym?
I don't recall that the police telling us anything like that.
Okay, so let me ask you about what you talked to the police about. Do you recall meeting with the police in your home?
The police came, surprised me. I never expected police to come on a Monday, the 26th.
So let's talk about that conversation. Do you remember telling them when you were surprised to see them about what you had seen happen and what was done to you at the gym?
Yes, when the police came and I opened the door and they saw me surprised, and he told me, "Do you know why we're here?" I didn't expect that because the only thing that I wanted to do that was just report to the manager and know the police. Nothing. I didn't want to do nothing with the police.
That's what I want to talk to you about, is what you reported to the manager and what you talked to the police about, okay? Now, when you were going to the gym with your husband, was there a point in time where something happened while you were at the gym that caused you to become uncomfortable?
Of course.
So-
That happened on the second floor when I was doing my routine of workout.
Was there more than one occasion where a person did something that caused you to become uncomfortable?
Sure, that was 1 week or something more later, which the same person did something that made me really upset.
Okay, so the two times that we're talking about, we'll start with the first time, but on both occasions was the same person there that did something that caused you to become very upset.
Yeah, it was the same person.
Can you describe what that person looked like?
Straight there sitting.
And Your Honor, she's indicating in the courtroom. Can you just state where that person is seated and what he is wearing for the record?
I cannot see clear his suit. He's wearing glasses.
All right, the record will reflect identification of the defendant.
Thank
Next
you.
question.
Prior to that first time that the defendant did something at the gym that caused you to become upset, had you ever seen him before?
Weeks ago. But this I remember after the fact. When things happened to me, I never put the two things together. Weeks ago, we happened to see on the news that was something about him. But it never came to me that was the same person who was doing things to me.
Let's talk about that first time that the defendant did something at the gym. You mentioned that you were on the second floor on this first time, is that right?
That is right.
When you were on the second floor of the gym, can you describe what type of equipment was there?
They have machines that they used to be in a room that was only for ladies preferred. And when they used that room to make a karate studio, we asked them to move some of the machines because we used to using them if they can put outside. So they put in one part of the second floor. And that's the machines that I normally use.
What types of exercises do you do on those machines that used to be in the women's preferred room?
I do all kind of the machines that they there, you know, for legs, upper body, lower body. And
And when you're talking about the time frame of when this happened, if you spoke to the police on the 26th, when was the first time that the defendant had done something at the gym? As best you can recall in terms of approximation.
I told them that it was like maybe 1 week, something before that.
Okay. About 1 week before when you spoke to the police, or about 1 week before the second time?
Yes, something. It was maybe the second week of February, and I don't remember exactly that day, because that's the day that I want to forget, that I wanted to believe that never happened. So that day, it was never on my mind.
So sometime the second week of February, and is it fair to say that it was either a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday?
It had to be one of those days that we normally go.
What do you mean when you say that what happened you wanted to put out of your memory and forget?
Well, it's something that I was finished part of my workout in one side of the second floor, and I proceed to walk to the other side where the machines are. And as I'm walking, I saw the person coming up the stairs, standing up at the top of the stairs, and he looked the area.
Ms. Doe, when he
Just a
was...
minute, she indicated by moving her head from left to right as if she's scanning the room. All right, next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. And the person who came up the stairs and looked around the area in the way that you described, is that the defendant you identified in court?
Yeah, he's here.
And when you saw him do that, did you see anyone else around on the second floor?
I was all alone. I was walking. I was all alone. He is standing on top of the stairs. He looked, and he saw me walking across and going to the machines, and he came holding a bag on his hand. He came to one of the machines. He put his bag on the floor, and he sat on the machine.
How close to you was the machine where he went and sat down and put his bag on the floor?
No, I was far. I was just walking. I was walking to go to the other end of the second floor.
Were you continuing your workout on the second floor?
Yes, I went to use my usual machines.
When you began to use your usual machines, did you see what the defendant was doing?
No, I did not. He was facing me because the machine that he was using, it was facing the parking lot. So his machine was right here, and he's sitting here. This is the parking lot, and I was using the machines on this side. So I just concerned about doing my workout. I wasn't checking on him.
And you were indicating that he was seated to the right in an area near the windows that would face the parking lot?
Yes,
And then you were exercising on your machines in an area to the left, is that right?
that's correct.
And when you were using the machines to the left part in relation to him, were you mainly focused on doing your workout?
It's all I focus on doing my workout. I didn't mind that somebody just sitting there.
And when he was sitting on a machine, was he looking in your direction or another direction?
I happened to notice that from time to time, he always moved his head to his left and look where I was and the machines that I was using. But that's not unusual. People look at other people and machines, sometimes waiting to this person finish the machine and be able to use it. So
what happened after you noticed that from time to time he would look over in your direction?
I kept doing my workout until I did many machines until I got one right next to him.
As you continued your workout, did you end up on a machine that was right next to the machine where he was?
Yes.
Did you see him exercising on that machine next to you?
No, he wasn't exercise. He was using a machine which we just open and close the legs. So at that moment, when I sat on that machine, he had his legs open and he was touching his penis and he was just kind of giving some kind of strokes or something like that. But we were facing, so I can see so clear. I wasn't checking before. The moment that I saw this happening is when I was right next to him.
So, Ms. Doe, when you were seated on a machine right next to him, did you see what he was doing with his penis?
Yeah, I saw that. I was right next to him and facing him. I can see what he was doing.
What was he doing with his penis while you were facing each other?
He was just touching and giving strokes to his penis.
Are you saying that he was giving strokes to his penis?
Yeah, just touching. And he kept his legs open on the machine. So I can see what he's doing.
Objection. Move to strike. Speculative.
Overruled. The answer will stand. Next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you saw him doing that, how far away was the machine where he was seated from the machine where you were seated facing him?
I was here. The machines, they were set up in a very small area, so all the machines are very close to each other. This machine where I was here, and his was right next to him.
And you're using your hands to indicate with your left hand right in front of you and your right hand
Yeah.
to the edge of the table in front of the witness stand, is that right?
It's
Yes.
showing about 18 inches for
Yeah.
the record.
Thank you.
Next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. And you were facing each other at this time?
Yes.
What, could you see where he was looking as he was stroking his penis?
He
about a
was
foot-
looking at me.
Were you looking at him?
I had to look. I want to ask him to leave.
So what happened after you saw him stroking his penis and looking at you?
I asked him, if he's done with the machine, can I use it, please? May I use it, please? And he get up. I want for him to leave. He didn't belong there. So I asked him to leave the machine. I asked him to let me use the machine.
When you asked him to let you use the machine, what did he do?
He get up from the machine, and I did thank him. I said, thank you.
How long would you say you sat next to him while he was stroking his penis?
It takes me 3 sets that I do in the machine. It takes just a few minutes that I was using the machine next to him.
So when you're referring to the time period, it took a few minutes to complete 3 sets on the machine that you were
Yes.
working on? Was he seated next to you that entire time that you were completing your sets?
Was he sitting all the time, from the beginning up to that time there?
How long would you say he was stroking his penis during that time frame when you were sitting next to him for a few minutes?
I saw him doing that when I went just sit in the machine from the beginning. And I saw him doing up to the end.
Is it fair to say that it was the entire time you were seated next to him?
I would say that.
Now, after you asked him if you could use that machine, were you uncomfortable by the fact that he had been touching himself in that way?
I was so upset. I was feeling so bad, but I didn't want to leave. I wanted to be there. I didn't want for him to make me scared. I wanted to continue doing my routine.
So after you asked him if you could use the machine, did he get up?
He got up.
Where did he go?
I have no idea, because that machine that I was going to use and the rest of the machines, they're all facing the parking lot, so I could not see what happened on my back.
And was he behind you, as far as you knew, he had gone in the direction behind you?
When he got up and I was standing there, I saw he went behind the machine. But after that, I don't know. He was on my back.
Did you see him again after you began using that machine that he had been sitting on?
I continued using machines until I got to a machine where I was sitting facing the floor. That you know, I wasn't facing the parking lot. I was facing just the room.
Were you now positioned where you were lying on your chest and stomach on a machine facing
No.
towards the floor?
No,
What do
I
you
was
describe?
sitting down.
Okay, as you were sitting down, you mentioned you were facing the floor. What do you mean?
No, facing the room. I was sitting like here, like now,
Okay, so you're seated upright.
upright.
And when you say the floor, are you referring to the second
I was-
floor, the room where the exercise equipment is?
Yeah, I was just looking at the machines and whatever happened there, yes.
While you were seated now upright facing the machines, did you see the defendant again?
Yes.
Where was he in relation to you?
He just walked and came in front of me and started doing all kind of stretches and moving his body and all kind of contortions in his arms and things like that, right on my face.
How far away was he from you as you were seated on the machine while he was doing these stretches or contortions?
From here to
And when you say to there,
To where?
where this lady,
Oh, from you to the lady in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay, that is about 4 feet, 3.5 to 4 feet.
is that about right? About 3.5 to 4 feet?
probably.
I'd say about 4 feet, probably, 4 feet.
Thank you, Your Honor. And was he facing you while you were seated on the machine?
Yeah, he came right to face me in front of my face.
Did you see anyone else on the second floor at this point in time?
There was nobody else in that area, nobody.
Did he come within that close proximity and start exercising right in front of you?
That's what he did.
When he was doing that, did you notice anything about him?
I had to look because he's right on my face, and I noticed that he has a erected penis right on my face.
When you say that he had an erect penis right in your face, was he in fact standing with his penis in your direction in that close proximity you described?
Yeah, I'm sitting. The machine is down, and he's standing up. He's a big guy, so I have that right on my face.
And when you saw that he had his penis erect in close proximity to you, did he say anything?
I wanted to say something, but I couldn't, so I was just probably frozen of fear. And he said to me, with a very funny and happy face, "Do you see this?" Pointing his penis. Pointing his penis. He said, "Do you see this? Do you like it?"
When you say that you wanted to say something but you were frozen in fear, was that because of what you had seen him do?
Yeah, because I don't know what is going to happen. He's just doing all down on my face.
When this happened, did you recognize him in any way from anything else you had seen?
No, I never recognized him. I never put his face on my mind that I had seen him before. Never.
After he did that, did you say anything back to you? Back to him, pardon me. Did you say anything back to him?
When he said that to me, it looks like I wake up, I react. Because before I wanted to ask him to leave me alone, to move from there, and I couldn't. I was thinking, but I couldn't talk. But at that moment, when he said that to me, do you like it? My reaction was, what? Raising my voice, I said, what did you just say to me? So he didn't expect my reaction.
When you saw,
What's the legal grounds?
Speculative.
Overruled, she's stating her thought process at the time. The answer will stand.
Thank
Were you
you.
finished with your answer, ma'am?
So this is the only moment that I could talk when I heard his voice.
when you heard him say, do you see this, do you like that, in the tone that you described, is that what then led to you asking him that question?
Yes.
Do you remember what tone you used when you said, what did you just say to me?
My tone was very upset, and I just kind of screamed. It was like, when I told him that, it was like, I was very, very petrified. I was so scared when I said that to him that,
What were you afraid of?
I don't know, I'm alone. He's doing that to me, and
Now, after that happened, after you responded to him, what did he do?
after I said that, he just moved. He didn't expect probably what I yelled at him.
Objection, speculative.
Sustained as to what he expected. Ask another question.
Without telling us what he thought, what did he do? What did you see him do?
He just walked around, grabbed his bag from the floor, and went downstairs.
Can you describe how he appeared when you had said, what did you just say to me, in the tone?
I guess he didn't expect that.
Objection.
Sustained. The answer will be stricken.
When you spoke to him, did he have a look of surprise on his face?
He did.
After you spoke to him, did he leave?
He did. That's the reason why he left immediately.
Now, did you see him again that day, that same day that he had spoken to you?
I didn't finish what I had to do upstairs, and I went downstairs.
Where did you go when you didn't finish and went downstairs?
I just was walking to my locker room, and I happened to see him right at the end of the first floor in the heavyweight section. I saw him walking.
Did you know where your husband was at that point in time when you were walking towards the locker room?
I saw my husband on the other side, and at that moment is when I decide I will never share this with anybody. I will not report her. I'm going to keep this for myself.
Why didn't you go tell your husband what the defendant had done that day?
I was thinking that he may react different way, and he may go to talk to him, or it may be a confrontation or some kind of problem in the gym, and I didn't want this to happen.
Did you think that something could happen to your husband if he was in a confrontation with the defendant?
Of course, my husband is a small person, and he's a very big person, and he wasn't going to accept what he did, and I didn't want to put my husband in any kind of trouble.
So what did you do then after walking towards the locker room?
I just went into the locker room, and I was there waiting for the time that I knew my husband will be done and I can go home with him.
Did you see the defendant again anytime that first day?
No.
Now, after your workout and after waiting in the locker room for your husband to finish his workout, did you leave together?
We left together, and what I thought that I was going to do, not to let my husband know.
Did you tell your husband what had happened at the gym after you left?
I changed my mind when I saw my husband driving, and I said I had to let you know something terrible happened to me in the second floor. He told me what happened.
What did
So-
you tell him, if you remember?
So I told him what happened to me. And very surprised, he told me, why you didn't go to talk to the manager?
Did you know the manager from your regular routine of being there so frequently?
Sure. He's a friendly guy. He always knows there in and out of the gym.
What's his name?
Brad.
Is that Brad?
Brad, yes.
And do you know if Brad was there that day when you were working out and this happened?
I saw him there in the front of the gym.
Why
But-
didn't you tell Brad or the manager what happened that first day?
I don't want to share this, my experience with anybody. I didn't want it, not even my husband to know, but going home, then I changed my mind.
When you told your husband what had happened, did you describe the person who had done this to you?
I told him, I didn't describe, I told him it's a tall black guy with tattoos all over his arms. That's all I said to him.
Did you see tattoos on the defendant's arm when he was working out on the second floor near you?
Yes.
Do you remember what type of outfit he was wearing?
Yeah, he was wearing a blue pants. It looks like a very thin material, a very a sleeveless blue t-shirt.
A sleeveless blue t-shirt?
Yes.
And when you say blue pants and a thin material, can you describe what type of material it was?
That was not the regular workout or warm-up suits that you can wear. That was a very thin, no heavy type of pants.
When you say thin, were they tight or were they loose?
No, they were not tight. Just the material was light.
Okay. Now, after you told your husband what happened, did you describe the man further, other than saying that he was a tall black male who had tattoos up and down his arms?
No, I told my husband, I don't want to talk about this anymore. We never talk about that. But he told me a couple of times, you have to report him. You have to report. I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to share this with the manager. Just keep it that way and let me go through this.
At least initially, after this first time where the defendant did what you described, did you speak to a manager about it at any point in time before seeing the defendant again?
No, me. Next time we went to the gym, my husband came over to one of the machines that I was using upstairs, and he told me, I just reported this to the manager, and he told me, it's
Wait.
you.
Wait right there. And in terms of what your husband shared with you, did that cause you to then do something else afterwards?
No,
Okay. Did you report it to the manager at that point?
no,
And was there a point where your husband tried to encourage you to tell the manager directly what had happened?
he was all the time telling me, you have to report this. This guy doesn't belong here.
Why was it that you wouldn't report it based on what you were thinking at that time?
I didn't want to report it because I didn't want to share with the manager what happened to me. I didn't want to repeat to anybody what happened to me. That was so sick what happened. And I didn't want to share with anybody other than my husband.
Now, after you had had these conversations with your husband, did you see the defendant again at the Crunch Fitness gym on a later date?
No,
At any point in time after the first time where he asked you, did you see this? Do you like this? Did you see him again?
I saw him that day when I was going the stairs. I saw him at the end. After that first time, I never saw him again.
Okay. Was there a second time where the defendant did something that caused you to become upset?
Yes,
Let's talk about that second time. Was that, in fact, the Friday before you spoke to the police when they came to your home? On February 22nd.
that was a Friday, February 22nd.
When the second time, where were you in the Crunch Fitness when you saw the defendant again?
As I usually, after my workout, I always like to use the spa. So I use the steam and I go swim a little bit and I go sit in the jacuzzi. Or I do the opposite, I go to the jacuzzi first and then swimming. So I went to the jacuzzi and I was sitting right at the left side of the jacuzzi, next to the wall.
When you were sitting on the left side of the jacuzzi next to the wall, is the pool area where the jacuzzi is and the pool itself, is that in a common area of the gym?
Yes,
Are both men and women allowed to access that area?
yes,
Do the locker rooms for the gym have direct access into the pool and jacuzzi area?
yes. Every locker room has a door that I let you come outside, right directly to the whirlpool or to the big pool.
In terms of your regular routine, when you would go to the jacuzzi or the pool, is that typically where you meet your husband?
No, I don't meet my husband in the spa.
When is it that your husband and you meet up after your workouts?
Outside in the front of the gym, by the front door.
When you were in the jacuzzi on February 22nd, were you expecting your husband to come join you?
Not to join me, but I knew that he was in the steam room and sometimes he's gonna come to the pool to swim.
Okay. So not necessarily to join you in the jacuzzi.
No.
But he often would come to that area where you would see him. Is that fair to say?
That is correct.
Now, when you were seated on the left side of the jacuzzi, what do you remember seeing? First of all, was anyone else around when you were in the jacuzzi at that point?
Again, I was all alone in the jacuzzi and there was nobody in the big pool. There was nobody. What happened is during that day, that time of the day, not many people come to the gym. That's the reason why we keep going at that time.
Is it easier to be able to finish your workout and your steam or your
Yes.
spa time?
Yes, and you can swim as not many people there or it's nobody there.
Tell me what happened as you were sitting alone in the jacuzzi with no one else around in the pool area?
I was there just a few minutes, and then I saw this person standing by the men's locker room wearing the same exactly that he wore on the first incident, and also holding a bag,
All right.
the same bag.
When the witness said this person, she looked towards the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor. And did you in fact point to the defendant when you said this person?
Yeah,
All right,
it was
again-
also here.
Again, she's pointing to the defendant and looking at him.
Thank
All right, next question.
Did you recognize the defendant from what he had done about a week or two beforehand on the second week of February?
The moment that I saw him standing by the door, I knew it was the same person.
When you said that he was at that point wearing the same clothes, were you referring to the same type of blue, thin pants that he had been wearing the day prior when he asked you if you saw his erect penis?
Actually, it wasn't the day, you want to rephrase? You said the day prior.
Or on the prior occasion?
In the prior occasion,
Thank you,
yes.
Your Honor. Now, was he clothed both on the top and on the bottom?
Yes, he was wearing the same thing than before.
You mentioned that he was holding a bag. What type of bag was it?
They say this is like a carry-on bag, something like that. The same thing that he had it upstairs in the second floor, and he put on the floor there to use the machine.
What did you do when you saw, or what did you see the defendant do when he walked out of the locker?
He stand there, and he just looked the area, look at me, look the other side, look the big pool, he look all around. So he walked a couple of steps where the water cooler is, and he start drinking water. While he's drinking the water, he always looked to the side to where I was.
When someone drinks water from the water cooler that's there outside of the locker room area, would they turn their head into the direction where the jacuzzi is?
Well, normally when you drink the water, you just look the faucet. You don't look around. But he was just drinking and look, drinking and look.
And when he was looking while drinking, would he be looking in your direction?
Of course, he was looking at me.
All right, and the witness indicated that she was turning her head to the right every time he took a sip of water. All right, next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you see anyone else around when he was looking at you?
There's nobody around.
What did he do after looking at you while getting a drink of water?
He finished drinking the water and he just went to the door to the men's locker room.
Can you describe, pardon me, Ms. Doe, when he went into the door of the men's locker room, did he actually go inside?
He went inside.
Can you describe the door to the men's locker room at the Crunch Fitness?
There is a glass door and it's a frosted type of glass door for security probably.
When you say frosted, is it the type of thing that you can see a silhouette past the door, but you can't actually see the person?
That is correct. That's the type of the men's door has.
When you saw this, did you see the defendant through the glass?
Well, when he went inside, that was a relief, and I was so happy that he just left, but not for too long, because a few minutes later, I can see his silhouette next to the door, and he's bending down, trying to do something to his leg, something on the floor. And my thinking was, he's just trying to scare me.
When you saw him through the door and you saw him doing something to his lower leg, did you see him after that point, after he came out?
A few minutes later.
So let me ask you about that. Did you actually see the person that was the silhouette through the door? Did he come out at some point?
A minute later, he opened the door and he came to the door outside.
When you, Ms. Doe, when you saw him come through the door, did you see the defendant?
I saw him, yes, I saw him.
What was he wearing when he came through the door after he had gotten a drink of water while looking at you?
He came outside wearing just a small towel around his waist.
What type of towel was it, if you know?
We have different kind of towels when we use the gym. Some very big for showers, some that we use on the machines. It's 2 or 3 different sizes of towels that we use. What he was wearing around his waist, that was a small towel, just open to the front and overlap on the front, just a little bit overlap on the front.
So when you're describing that it overlapped a little bit on the front, was it wrapped around his waist?
That was around his waist, yes.
What are those small towels used for at the gym that he had wrapped around his waist?
We normally use when we use in the machines.
Are those typically the wipe down towels that are used?
That's correct.
Now, when you saw that, did you actually see his genital area exposed?
No, I didn't see it, but he also was wearing another towel around his ankle.
Now, he had a towel that was wrapped around his ankle, just yes or no?
Yes, he was.
Now, were those the only things that he was wearing?
That was the only thing that he was wearing.
Was his chest exposed?
Of course, that was just the towel.
Were his legs exposed?
His legs was exposed.
When you're describing this towel, about how far down his legs did it extend?
A little bit higher of his knee.
So just above his knee?
Yes.
Okay.
No, not to his knee. It's up to his knee.
About how much higher above his knee did the towel end?
Something like that.
Okay, you're getting about 6 inches.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, When you saw the defendant walk out like that, did he have anything in his hands?
He was holding the same bag, and he had something black on his other hand.
And you're indicating with your left hand that he was holding the same bag?
The same bag, yes.
And with your right hand, he had something else that was black in his hand?
Yes, some kind of material, black material on his hand.
What did he do when he walked out of the locker room with those two
He
things?
walked by the whirlpool, and against the wall, he set his bag, and on top of the bag, he put on a black bathing suit.
Was that the item that was in his right hand, was a black bathing suit?
That was what he'd been holding, yeah, when he left.
When he put the bag down against the wall and he put the bathing suit on top of the bag, what did he do?
I never stopped looking at him since he left through the door because I was so petrified and I didn't know, dressed like that, what he was going to do. So I kept looking at him, and I looked, and I looked, and I did. When he walked, he put the bag, he put his bathing suit on top, and make sure that he had an eye contact with me, because I never stopped looking, and he's looking at me and just kind of smiling. He pointed the bathing suit on top of the bag. He pointed that, but happy, like he's showing me that is his bathing suit, what is there.
Objection, strike.
Overruled. The answer will stand.
Thank you.
Next question.
Was he smiling at you at that point?
Of course, he's just telling me, he's not talking back, he's telling me, look here, this is the way I felt. That's smiling and pointing the bathing suit right there.
And the record will reflect the witness is pointing down with her index finger with her right hand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Was he maintaining eye contact with you while he was doing that?
Of course.
What did he do after he pointed towards his bathing suit while smiling at you?
He just get up and walk to the whirlpool, to the jacuzzi. And I knew having such a small tower, overlap on the front, and coming down the steps to go in the jacuzzi, I didn't want to see anything. So I kept my eyes looking up the water.
What were you concerned about seeing when he was walking into the jacuzzi?
You just think about it. He's not wearing a bathing suit. He has a small towel overlap on the front, and he's going down the steps. What is going for me to look? I didn't want it to look that. I put my eyes down.
Did you think that you were going to see his penis?
Oh, that is my first idea.
Did you see anything other than the towel that barely overlapped in the front?
I didn't look, so I didn't see anything.
What happened after he got into the jacuzzi?
He walked straight and came to sit right by my side.
If you were sitting on the left side of the jacuzzi, did you see anyone else inside the jacuzzi with you when he got in?
There was nobody at that moment. There was nobody in the jacuzzi. I was just by myself.
When you say that he sat right by your side, was he in front of you, to the left, to the right?
He sat to my left side.
And when he was sitting on your left side, what was on your right side?
The wall.
Now, when he was on your left side, how close was he to you?
About this close.
Indicating about 18 inches.
Thank you, Your Honor. And what happened, or what were you doing when he sat next to you about 1.5 feet away?
I could do anything. I guess when you're so afraid, you just kind of frozen. You can move, you can do anything. I'm just sitting there.
Did you say anything to him?
No.
What did he do when he sat next to you?
I don't know how long it passed by, but I happened to notice the motion of his arm, the movement of his arm, the right arm right no next, but the left side where I was sitting. I can see, I can notice, but I didn't see nothing, but I noticed the motion of his arm, the movement of his arm.
And you're-
Okay, the record reflects the witness is moving her right arm back and forth. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Was his arm bent at the elbow and moving in front of him?
Was his hand was down the water, and all I noticed is his arm.
When you saw
Excuse
him,
me, can we describe the motion for the record?
Well, it looked like she was moving her right shoulder back and forth with her, from her shoulder to her elbow facing down. Just a moment. I'm sorry, I have to describe it for the record. From her shoulder to her elbow was in a downward motion. Her shoulder was moving up and down, and she had her forearm close to her lap, it looked like.
Thank
All
you.
right, go ahead.
Now, was the jacuzzi or the bubbles in the jacuzzi on?
Well, the jacuzzi has all the jets working.
Non-responsive.
Overall, I think that was responsive. The answer will stand.
Were the jets on?
All the jets were on, and so the water is spinning all the time, and we have some kind of foam. That day was a foam on top of the water.
Could you see below the water?
You can never see anything. Even if you put your eyes right on top of the water, you cannot see anything. The water is spinning very strongly.
When he was moving his arm in that way that you were gesturing, could you see what he was doing?
I could not see, but I can think what he was doing. He was masturbating.
Objection. It's non-responsive and it's speculative.
It's not, Your Honor. She's describing.
No, I won't entertain speaking objections. The answer will stand as to her perception. You can inquire on cross. The answer will stand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Why was it that you believed he was masturbating next to you?
The movement of his hand, of his arm.
When he was moving it, can you describe the way that he was moving it as best you can put it into words?
He was just doing the kind of when you masturbating do.
Okay, that's the only way you could describe it?
That's the only way I can describe.
When you were sitting next to him and saw him moving his arm in that way below the water, were you sure that that's what he was doing?
I'm sure because the water was moving and coming to my left arm. This besides the jets moving and spinning the water, I can feel the water coming from his side to my side.
Now, when he was doing that, were you thinking about what he had done the first time you had seen him upstairs on the second floor?
Of course, I just thinking, why me? Why the second time has this happened to me?
What did he say, if anything, while he was doing that?
No, he didn't say nothing.
Had he spoken to you at all since he had pointed at his bathing suit and gotten in and done that motion?
No, nothing.
When you were sitting next to him, were you close enough to actually feel the water moving against you when he was moving his arm in that way?
Yes, that's what made me to believe what he was doing, to make me think that what he was doing, yes.
Objection. Strike, speculative.
Overruled. The answer will stand.
Now, when that was happening, where did you look?
I'm not looking at him. I just looking at front.
Why not?
I don't want to look at him. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to see him. So I just look at front. I didn't know what else to do. I could not move from there. I should get up and leave. I couldn't do it.
Were you afraid?
I was petrified.
What happened after he was moving his arm below the water in that way?
A little later, with his right hand, he touched my left arm.
Was that,
He grabbed my arm.
and you taking your right arm indicating his, and then he grabbed onto your left arm on the forearm, is that right?
Yes, he touched my left arm
And
with his
she's
hand.
indicating her left arm just above the elbow.
He touched.
And when he did that, was that at the same time that he had, or was that at the before, during, or after?
After.
Just wait just a moment. He has to finish the question, okay? I'm sorry. Wait till he finishes the entire question.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Owens. Go ahead and restate the question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Was that before, during, or after he had been doing the motion that you described as masturbating?
That was after.
Now, could you see his penis when he grabbed your arm?
No, you could not see nothing in that kind of water.
What were you thinking when he grabbed your arm?
I was scared and I could not move more because I moved a little bit, but I was just touching the wall, so I cannot move anymore.
What did he do after he grabbed your arm? What did he do with his arm? His hand, pardon me.
He didn't do nothing with his hand. He just with his leg. He touched my left leg
When he
with his foot.
When he grabbed your arm, what did you do?
What did I do?
Yes. What did you do after he grabbed your arm?
I just moved against the wall the best I could.
Did you pull your arm away?
I did. I moved my whole body to the side.
Were you up against the wall to your right side?
I was against, yes, to my right side.
When he grabbed your arm, were you upset by that?
Of course I was. I want to scream, I want to yell, and I couldn't.
Were you offended by him grabbing your arm like that?
Can you imagine after he's masturbating, he just grabbed my arm.
After he grabbed your arm, did he touch you again?
Of course, using his foot, he touched my left leg.
When he touched your left leg, can you describe how that happened?
I was able to ask him, was your foot that just touched my leg? And his answer was, at that moment, if the jets go off, how do we put them back? I can't believe that he's asking me that after what he did to me.
Objection narrative at this point.
Sustained. You can, the answer will stand, but you can ask your next question. Go ahead.
So let me ask you a question first, Ms. Doe. After you asked him, was that your foot, when he touched you on your leg with his foot, did he say something about the jets and what would happen if they turned off?
He asked me that, but I think when I heard his voice, it's like, it looked like...
Objection non-responsive.
Overruled. It was an open-ended question. You can answer.
After that, it looks like I just wake up with something, like a dream or something, and I can see at that moment, there was a man, he had been sitting to the right side of the jacuzzi, and he was getting up and leaving at that moment. I probably saw the guy coming in, I don't recall. I was just so petrified of fear. I was so frozen of fear of, I don't know what happened to me. I didn't see that person coming in. But after he talked to me, I saw the person leaving. He was just leaving.
Now, when you're saying after he talked to me, are you referring to the defendant?
To the defendant, yes.
And when you're describing where this other person was in the jacuzzi, did you see him after the defendant had touched you on the arm after he had masturbated?
After he talked to me, I saw that the guy had been sitting to the right side of the pool, and he got up and left.
So when you're describing the right side of the pool, if you're seated along the edge where to your right, you're against the wall.
Yes.
And Mr. Winslow, the defendant, is seated immediately to your left, was the person who was leaving the jacuzzi after Mr. Winslow spoke across the jacuzzi from you?
It was to the side of the right side of the pool. Just, I was sitting here and he was sitting in this side of the pool.
And you're
Okay, just a minute, you're talking about the pool or the
The
jacuzzi?
jacuzzi, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
And you're using your left arm and you're saying here, indicating where you were, and then you moved it to the left to indicate where this other man was, is that right?
Yeah, it was to the right of the jacuzzi.
And when you're describing to the right of the jacuzzi, are you referring to it as being from the perspective of the locker rooms or the entryway? Meaning to your
Yes.
left, but to the
Yes.
right of the jacuzzi?
Yeah, sitting like that, this is my right. I was against the wall and I can see the guy sitting on this side.
Now, when you saw this man leave, did you say anything to him?
No, he got up and he went to use that side with the guy he just left and rubbing his hands and very happy. He said, "It feels so good."
Who was it that said that it feels so good?
The defendant said, the guy said, "It feels so good," like happy. That's,
Okay, and the witness is rubbing her hands back and forth together with flat palms with her fingers extended and rubbing her hands back and forth. All right, next question. And that's what the defendant was doing when he said that, is that
he
correct?
said, that defendant did that, yes.
Okay, next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, what did you do when he rubbed his hands together like that and said it feels so good?
I didn't do, and I didn't say nothing. At that moment, I saw my husband leaving the men's locker room and coming to the big pool.
Were you still in the jacuzzi with the defendant when you saw your husband leaving the men's locker room?
Yes. As soon as I saw my husband, I left the jacuzzi and I went into the big pool and I wanted to talk to my husband.
Did you speak to your husband near the big pool, the regular pool?
Yes.
When you talked to your husband, did you tell him what had happened?
No, at that moment what just happened, but I told him, "You wanted to see the guy who did that on the second floor. That is the guy." And I pointed to him. I said, "That's the guy. You asked me that you want to see him. That's the guy."
Were you pointing to the defendant when you were telling your husband who had done this to the person who had done this on the prior occasion?
Yes, I pointed to him and said, "That's the guy."
What did your husband say to you when you pointed out the defendant?
He said to me, "Okay, so you have to report her." Then at that moment, he saw me talking to my husband. He got up and left the jacuzzi and went through the door to the men's locker room.
When you said that he saw me talking to my husband, did you just point to the defendant?
He saw me talking to my husband.
And you're indicating to the defendant?
Just a moment. The record reflect, when she said he, she is pointing to the defendant. And now there's an objection, Mr. Carlos.
Striking testimony is speculative as to what he saw.
That motion is granted. The jury will disregard that statement. It will be stricken that the defendant saw her talking to her husband.
Okay,
The jury will disregard that. All right, next question.
thank you, Your Honor. When you were talking to your husband, could you see the defendant?
Yeah, he was still in the whirlpool, in the jacuzzi.
When you were talking to your husband and pointing towards the defendant, was the defendant looking at you?
He was looking at me, and he probably looking that I was talking to a man.
Objection.
Just a moment. Speculation?
Yes.
All right, the last portion of the answer will be stricken. The answer, "he was looking at me," will remain. The jury can consider that, but the remaining part of the answer will be stricken, treated as though you never heard it. All right, next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. After the defendant was looking at you while you were pointing him out to your husband, what did the defendant do?
He got up from the jacuzzi, went to grab his bag, his bathing suit, and went to the door to the men's locker room.
Did you see what he was wearing around his waist when he got out of the jacuzzi?
That is when I told my husband, you see, he's now wearing a bathing suit. Look, you can see a wet towel. It shows every form of your body. So you can see when he was standing, grabbing his back, you can see that he wasn't wearing anything other than the small towel. And I pointed to my husband, see, he has just two towels, the one that in his waist and the other one.
And the other one was wrapped around his ankle.
Wrapped his
is that right?
ankle.
Now, what did you and your husband do after seeing the defendant get out of the jacuzzi and leave that area?
He told me, go get dressed right now, and you're going to report it right this moment.
In that moment when you were in the jacuzzi pointing out the defendant to your husband, did you recognize him from the prior incident?
No, we never recognized him for any other instance there. Only that what happened on the second floor.
Okay. Did your husband say anything about whether he recognized the defendant?
No, he never said anything.
What did you and your husband do after the defendant left?
He just told me, go get dressed, and we're going to the manager right this moment. And I said, okay, I do it.
So what did you do after you got dressed?
So we went looking for the manager. The manager was gone for the day.
Do you remember speaking to a female manager who was present that day?
Not that Friday. That was the Monday that we went back to the gym and we reported the two incidents.
Okay. And after what happened on Friday, do you recall if you spoke to anyone from the gym that Friday when this happened?
I never spoke to anybody.
Did you call the police on the day that this happened?
I never called the police either.
When was the next time that you went to the gym?
The next Monday.
Now, on Monday of the following week, who was it that you spoke to at the gym?
We went to talk to the manager, and the manager, when I described the person to the manager, he said I had to make phone calls.
Okay.
And
So
he
let me
called.
stop you right there for a second. When you spoke to the manager and described the person who had done this, what description did you give, if you remember?
A very tall black guy wearing glasses with tattoos on his arms. Is all I said.
Did the manager appear to know who you were referring to?
No, he never said anything.
Did he give you a name or anything like that?
Nothing.
Now, when you reported this to the manager, were you speaking to the male manager who you knew from before? Or was it someone else?
With the male manager that I knew from always.
And when you spoke to him, did you tell him what had happened in both of the incidents?
I mentioned to him what happened to me in both incidents, and he said, let me call somebody. And he called this other person that works there also. That is the assistant manager.
And was that a man or a woman?
That's a woman.
Did you know her from before?
Yes.
What's her name? If you remember.
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, when you spoke to the manager, that was Brad, is that right?
That was Brad.
And then he brought over a female assistant manager?
Yes. And she asked me to repeat again what happened.
And did you tell her what had happened on both occasions?
I did.
And when you were speaking to the two managers, you mentioned that Brad at one point said, I need to make some phone calls? Is that right?
That's what he said, yes.
After speaking to Brad and the female assistant manager, or during that conversation, was your husband present?
Yeah, he was with me. When I was reporting and I was doing everything, he was with me.
And did either you or your husband give any name of the person that had done this?
No, we never heard any name, and we didn't know who the person was.
So what happened after you told the story of what had happened on both incidents to Brad and the female assistant manager?
That was over. I thought the only thing I wanted to do is just have this guy off the gym, nothing more. No, I didn't think nothing is going to happen. Just I asked him, he should not be here.
Other than that first conversation with Brad and the female assistant manager, did you talk to anyone else from Crunch Fitness?
We didn't talk to anybody.
Was the next time that you talked to anybody about what had happened when the Sheriff's Department and the Carlsbad Police Department came to your home?
That Monday that I reported in the Crunch Fitness, that surprised me, the police and the, yes.
Now, when you talked to Brad and the assistant manager, did you find out any information about the person that had done this?
No, we didn't know.
When was it that you recalled that you had seen this person before on the news?
The police mentioned. When I said that, why? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. When you spoke to the police, what was it that happened that caused you to remember that you had known who this person was?
I told him that we don't know who the person was.
And when you spoke to the police, did that cause you to then do something?
Well, I didn't know what's going to happen. I knew the police is going to be involved, and then we knew who the person was, so...
Once the police became involved, did you learn who the person was?
Yes.
And in terms of when this happened, did you know the person's name at that point?
Before that, we never knew who the person was, know his name.
Nothing further at this time.
All right, Cross?
Sidebar?
Sure.
Thanks.
Well, want to just recess for the day and we'll handle this outside the presence of the jury?
That actually would be my sidebar request.
That was going to be your request?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I don't want to have a 15-minute sidebar and come back at 4:30 and tell you to leave, so we'll handle these issues outside the presence of the jury. Again, please be very diligent in not watch any news accounts of this case or look at anything in written form. We are going to be back at it tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. As I said, we are way ahead of schedule. I know we cleared you all to June 21st. The people are planning on resting tomorrow, and we'll begin with the defense case tomorrow. So this case is moving along very quickly. So we will see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Please remember the admonition. Leave your notebooks behind. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Ma'am, you can go ahead and go with her. All right, the record will reflect the jurors have left the courtroom. So, ma'am, I'm just going to order you back for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, right here in this department, okay? All right, have a nice evening. All right, thank you very much. All right, the jurors have left the courtroom. I have a couple of things I wanted to go over. All right, and the record will reflect Jane Doe number 4 has left.
Number 5, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, 5 has left and the door is closed. We mentioned this, we talked about this in a pretrial motion. At the time of these alleged offenses, the defendant was out on bail, and he had an ankle bracelet on. All right, his movements were being monitored, and we discussed it's the people's intent to admit that evidence, that he was at the gym, or how do you plan on doing that?
So, Your Honor, the people, this was an open question. I understand that the court was very clear that we would not be making any reference to his bail status, and the people seek to introduce at least the fact that there was GPS monitoring that was active in relation to the defendant at the time that places him at the gym when these incidents occurred. I'm open to a stipulation if the defense would like to do so, and I have instructed my witnesses, as you can tell, not to make any reference to his bail status or anything along those lines if she knows about it.
All right, well, so has there been discussions about a stipulation? If there's no stipulation, you're entitled to present that evidence. So who's handling this, Mr. Carlos or Mr. Watkins?
I'm conferring.
Okay, do you need a moment? Okay, the court cannot force a stipulation, obviously, but if they are entitled to present the evidence to bolster the identification, and I assume that you do have a witness who can testify, or at least the documentation pursuant to People versus Rodriguez that he was there?
I do, Your Honor, and that would be a deputy from the San Diego Sheriff's Department who was tasked with monitoring the defendant at the time period.
Okay. I'll let defense counsel confer.
It's like as a condition.
Well, why don't we do this? I don't need the answer now. You can all discuss this after court, and if you have a stipulation that you're willing to agree to, fine. If you can't agree on a stipulation, and the defense is unwilling to do that, have your witness here tomorrow, and that's going to come out.
And it sounds like from our initial conversation, we'll be able to reach a stipulation, Your Honor, but we'll know that for certain by tomorrow morning.
Okay, a couple other things. We had a lengthy discussion at sidebar about the admissibility of the testimony of Jane Doe number 4 and some of the fresh complaint evidence through Brandon Guillermo and her husband Troy. And I imagine we'll revisit this tomorrow with Nicole Edwards. The statements come in under a prior consistent statement. We talked about the fresh complaint doctrine. The case of People versus Brown at 8 Cal 4th 746 is the California Supreme Court case that essentially rewrote the fresh complaint rules for California. And there was a mention, I think, Mr. Watkins, by you, that the complaint was not fresh. In the Supreme Court of California stated that the timing of a complaint and whether it was made promptly after the incident or rather at a later date is not necessarily determinative of the admissibility of evidence of the complaint. Thus, the freshness, and he put freshness in quotes, of a complaint should not be viewed as an essential prerequisite to the admissibility of such evidence. And that was one of the things that we discussed. I just didn't cite the case when we were back in the hallway because I didn't have it handy. And that's the source of the authority.
Yeah, well, my position is, I understand that time is not determinative, but my position is that it's not fresh because it's been done 3 other times prior, and that makes it not a fresh complaint.
Right, and it was cumulative. Right, and you made that objection on a record.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure the record was clear as the authority the court was relying on. All right, issue number 3 is we heard testimony, a lot of testimony about Matt, who was present, and there was some discussion during the pretrial hearings as to whether or not Matt was going to be testifying. The people are not calling him as a witness, correct?
No, Your Honor.
And he is on the defense witness list. And we talked about providing sufficient notice because he does have a Fifth Amendment provision. We need to be counseled if you are intending to call him as a witness. And I haven't heard anything back, but I need to get somebody from the public defender's office here to counsel him if he is going to be called as a potential witness.
Right, and we can let you know that tomorrow morning based on the testimony of Jane Doe 4 that we just heard. We will inform the court whether or not he needs to testify tomorrow morning.
All right, well, that leads us into our next issue is the people are going to rest in the morning.
Yes.
Correct? So you need to have your witnesses here tomorrow morning. Is Matt one of the potential witnesses?
He wouldn't be called tomorrow, no.
Okay.
We have other witnesses lined up for tomorrow.
All right. And you expect to go the full day tomorrow after the people rest, correct?
Yes,
And when would Matt hit the stand? On Monday?
possibly on Monday.
All right. Well, then we do need to get him counseled if you intend to call him as a witness.
Sure.
And we will notify the public defender's office if that's necessary. All right. Are there any other requests at this time?
No, Your Honor, I would just ask that counsel inform me of who they intend to call as witnesses tomorrow overnight sometime.
Right.
Yeah, you can email me, I'll email you that.
And I know I'd usually ask at the end of the night who's going to be called tomorrow. Who do you have tomorrow then, Mr. Owens?
So tomorrow, we do have witnesses lined up. First, Nicole Edwards. I'll likely take her after other witnesses because we've already moved on to Jane Doe number 5. That was just a scheduling issue. Jane Doe number 5's husband, Robert C., would be available to testify. Shelley Treya and Brad Moser are both employees of the Crunch Fitness, who would be fresh complaint, potential prior consistent statement witnesses. And then we have the officer and the detective who took the reports of Jane Doe number 5 as well.
Okay, is that going to take us up to noon?
I don't know. I don't think it necessarily will. That really depends upon the length of cross-examination of Jane Doe 5 and Nicole Edwards.
Okay.
It could take us to noon.
I mean, yeah, the cross-examination is going to be more than a half hour or so.
So we'll probably go to noon?
most
Close
likely.
to.
All right, I'll order the defense to have their witnesses here and ready to roll at 1:30, but let us know by 9 if you intend to call Matt. All right, so you don't have to have your witnesses here until 1:30. And if we finish a little bit before noon, we'll just break early for lunch.
Great.
All right, any other requests?
No.
Oh, and just to address your request, I'll ask defense to extend a professional courtesy to Mr. Owens and let him know which witnesses you're going to be calling, as he did for you as well. So it'll move things along. Okay?
Thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right,
Thank you, Your Honor.
we're in recess.